All right, so are you ready to dive into some seriously fascinating sleep stuff?
Oh, yeah, always ready to talk about sleep.
We're taking a look at chapter 16 from this book about sleep in the modern world. And
Okay.
I got to say, this chapter's a bit different. It goes like way beyond the usual sleep tips.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's more about solutions, like actual solutions for that, like constant sleep deprivation so many of us are dealing with.
Well, and one of the things I found interesting is the author really kind of dives into, we all know we need to sleep more, but
Right.
why don't we?
Yeah, why is that so hard? It's like we know we should,
Yeah.
but then there's
Well,
resistance.
yeah, like we know we should, but then Netflix drops a new season
Yeah.
or work deadlines pile up and suddenly sleep is like the last thing on our minds.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think it's partly because as a culture we sort of promote busyness.
Mhm.
We're all so busy.
Like a badge of honor. Like, oh, I only got 4 hours of sleep last night. Exactly. And it's like proof that you're really working hard.
Yeah.
But the author actually uses this phrase. It's a little bit jarring.
Oh, okay.
They say that chronic sleep deprivation is like a slow form of self-euthanasia.
Whoa. Okay, that's a
Yeah.
that's a pretty intense way to put it.
It is, and I think they do that to kind of highlight just how serious the problem is.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
kind of treat sleep like it's this luxury, like
Yeah.
something we can just skimp on if we have to.
Right, when we need to.
But it really, it impacts our physical health, our mental health, our relationships, our work.
Absolutely.
It affects everything.
Okay, so we're all sleep deprived. We know it's bad for us. We got to make a change.
Right.
But where do we even start?
Well, so the author lays out kind of a two-pronged approach. They talk about what they call passive solutions and active solutions.
Got it.
So passive solutions are things that you can use technology for your environment to sort of make it easier to get good sleep. And then active solutions are things where you have to put in a little more effort,
Yeah.
be more intentional.
I like that. Let's start with the passive solutions then, because I think we could all use a little help in the sleep department.
Yeah, me too. So one example is imagine like a smart home that's totally optimized for sleep.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
So your sleep tracker could talk to your smart thermostat and adjust the temperature based on your sleep cycles.
So you're always at that perfect temperature
Exactly.
throughout the night. No more fighting over the thermostat.
Right.
I love it.
Another big one is light.
Okay, yeah,
So you know how blue light from our devices can like really mess with our sleep?
totally.
They're talking about these special LED bulbs that can like adjust the color temperature in your house throughout the evening.
Interesting.
So it minimizes that blue light exposure as you're getting closer to bedtime.
So it's kind of like gently guiding your body into sleep mode.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
like that a lot.
And this technology could actually even help you adjust your sleep schedule.
Really?
Like if you need to beat jet lag or adjust to a new work shift.
So no more tossing and turning after a long flight,
Right.
or like dragging yourself out of bed for those early morning meetings.
Exactly. And actually,
Okay, this is all sounding very futuristic.
it is.
Yeah,
But you know
really.
what? This isn't just some like sci-fi fantasy.
Oh, really?
NASA has been using similar systems on the International Space Station for years.
What?
Astronauts experience like 16 sunrises a day up there.
Wow.
So maintaining a regular sleep cycle is like,
Yeah, that sounds nearly impossible.
it's a huge challenge, yeah.
Yeah.
But these special lights have been a total game changer for them.
So it's like space-age technology for better sleep.
Right, and now it's starting to trickle down to us Earth dwellers.
I love that. Okay, so passive solutions like high-tech and pretty effortless.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, we got to take responsibility for our own sleep, right? What about those active solutions where we have to put in a little more effort?
Well, the author makes this really interesting point that just knowing stuff isn't enough.
Yeah, like we can know all the facts about sleep but still not actually get enough.
Exactly.
Why is that?
They share this anecdote about their students who took their sleep course.
Okay.
And, at first they were all excited and they increased their sleep time, but then a lot of them just kind of slipped back into their old habits.
That's like knowing that junk food is bad for you but still craving that cookie.
Exactly.
So what's the secret ingredient? How do we bridge that gap between knowledge and action?
Well, the author believes that data can be super motivating.
Data.
Yeah. So imagine an app that connects your sleep data with other health metrics like weight, mood, productivity.
Okay.
And you can actually see the connection. Like you can see how your sleep directly impacts your day-to-day life.
I like that because, seeing those connections Seeing those concrete results would definitely be motivating for me. But let's be honest, some people need a little extra push.
Right.
Does the author have any suggestions for that?
Yeah, they suggest taking this idea of data a step further with what they call predictalytics.
Predictalytics, okay, what is that?
It's basically an app that not only shows you your current sleep data, but also projects the potential long-term health risks
Okay.
of continued sleep deprivation.
So it's like a glimpse into your future if you don't start prioritizing sleep.
Exactly.
Okay, that does sound a little scary.
Well, it's not meant to scare you. It's more about giving you personalized insights to help you make informed decisions about your health.
So it's about empowerment, not fear-mongering.
Right.
Got it. What kind of insights are we talking about?
Well, for example, the app might show you how sleep deprivation can impact things like testosterone levels and sperm count.
I have a feeling that would get some men's attention.
Probably.
Okay, so we've got smart homes, light therapy, data-driven apps, and even a bit of predictalytics to keep us on track. What other individual level solutions does the author offer?
Well, this one's interesting. It involves flu shots.
Flu shots. Okay, what about them?
So apparently, the amount of sleep you get in the week leading up to your flu shot can significantly impact its effectiveness.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
Yeah, and so the author actually suggests using sleep tracking to figure out the optimal time to get vaccinated based on your sleep patterns.
That is fascinating. So it's all connected. Sleep really does impact every aspect of our health.
It really does.
This is all great stuff, and we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah, we've been talking about individual solutions, but the author doesn't stop there.
Oh, there's more.
Oh, yeah. They've got this whole vision for sleep in the 21st century. They propose some pretty radical ideas for education, for the workplace, even for public policy to really change the way we view and prioritize sleep.
Okay, I'm hooked. Let's hear it. But first, let's take a moment to process all this amazing info about individual solutions. We'll be right back to explore those big picture ideas and see what kind of sleep revolution the author has in store for us. Okay, so we're back, and I'm ready to hear about the author's big picture ideas for sleep. Like, where else do they see opportunities for change?
Well, they start with a pretty bold statement.
Okay.
They say, we need a global sleep education program.
A global sleep education program.
Yeah, tailored to different age groups, to teach kids about the importance of sleep.
You know, that makes sense when you consider their informal survey found that 0% of respondents
I know, right?
received any kind of form of sleep education in school.
It's crazy.
0%. That's shocking.
Yeah.
We learn about nutrition and exercise from a young age, but sleep is just kind of ignored.
Yeah, it's like we just assume kids will figure it out on their own, but
Yeah.
it's such a fundamental part of our health and well-being.
I love the idea of a global sleep education program.
Yeah.
It's never too early to start building healthy habits, right?
Exactly. It's about breaking the cycle of sleep neglect and setting future generations up for success.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what about us adults?
Mhm.
Our work lives are a major contributor to sleep deprivation.
Right.
Does the author offer any solutions for the workplace?
They do. And some are pretty radical. Like, imagine a world where companies offer sleep bonuses to employees who prioritize sleep.
Wait, are we talking about getting paid to sleep? Because I'm in.
Huh. Well, it's not quite that simple, but the author cites the example of Aetna,
Okay.
this large insurance company,
Right.
that offers financial rewards to employees who track and maintain good sleep habits.
Interesting. So it's more about incentivizing healthy sleep,
Right, exactly.
which, I like that idea. I'm all for companies taking employee well-being seriously,
Yeah.
but I can't help but think that some people might find this kind of program intrusive.
Yeah, that's a valid concern. The author actually addresses that too and, emphasizes the importance of privacy and having clear guidelines to protect employee rights.
Okay, good point.
Yeah.
So maybe sleep bonuses aren't the perfect solution, but I like the author's thinking. What other workplace changes do they propose?
Well, another big one is moving away from that rigid 9 to 5 workday
Okay.
and embracing more flexible schedules
Hmm.
that cater to individual chronotypes.
Chronotypes, right? The whole early bird versus night owl thing.
Exactly. And the author envisions workplaces that allow individuals to work during their peak performance hours
Yeah.
rather than forcing everyone into the same time mold.
I could see how that would be a game changer. I'm definitely more productive in the mornings,
Me too.
but I know people who don't really hit their stride until later in the day. It just seems like such a simple adjustment, but
Yeah.
it could have a huge impact on productivity, creativity, overall employee satisfaction.
Absolutely. And the benefits extend beyond the individual level too.
Really? How so?
Well, think about it. More flexible work hours could lead to reduced traffic congestion,
Oh, that's a good point.
which is a win for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Especially in densely populated areas.
Yeah. Less time stuck in traffic means more time for sleep.
Exactly.
I like how the author's thinking about this on a system-wide level.
Mm-hmm.
What other centers do they address?
Healthcare is another big one. The author argues for a fundamental shift towards what they call sleep-centered healthcare.
Sleep-centered healthcare. Okay. I'm intrigued. What would that actually look like?
Well, first, they paint a pretty grim picture of the current hospital environment,
Yeah.
especially in intensive care units.
Yeah.
It's all constant noise, bright lights, frequent interruptions.
Yeah, you don't get much rest in the hospital, that's for sure.
Right. It's basically the worst possible setting for restful sleep.
I've never thought about it that way,
Mhm.
but it makes perfect sense. If you're already sick or recovering from surgery,
Mm-hmm.
a sleep-deprived brain and body are going to struggle to heal.
Exactly. And the author argues that this lack of attention to sleep actually hinders patient recovery
Oh, wow.
and prolongs hospital stays.
So what's the solution?
They propose some pretty simple things, actually, like dimming the lights at night,
Okay.
providing earplugs and eye masks,
Yeah.
and scheduling tests and procedures around the patient's natural sleep rhythms.
Those seem like common sense solutions. Why aren't they already standard practice?
Well, the author attributes it to a lack of awareness and education, Doctors and nurses are so focused on the immediate medical needs of their patients,
Yeah.
they might overlook the crucial role sleep plays in the healing process.
So it's not about negligence. It's more about shifting priorities and integrating sleep into the overall care plan.
Right.
Did the author mention any other specific examples of sleep-centered healthcare?
Yeah, they talk about neonatal intensive care units,
Okay.
or NICUs.
And I see you. So.
You know how those units are often brightly lit 24/7?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that constant light exposure can be really detrimental to these infants' sleep and development.
Oh, wow. I hadn't considered that. Those tiny babies need sleep more than anyone.
Exactly. And research has actually shown that NICUs with dim lighting protocols
Okay.
see significant improvements in infant sleep weight gain and even earlier discharge times.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It really shows the power of even seemingly small changes.
It does. And what's even more encouraging is that even in underdeveloped countries where resources are limited,
Yeah.
simple solutions like shrouds over neonatal cots can make a big difference in promoting sleep and improving outcomes.
Those are some powerful examples of how shifting our approach to sleep can benefit even the most vulnerable among us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've covered individual changes, educational reforms, a new vision for healthcare. Where else does the author see opportunities for societal change around sleep?
Well, one area they highlight is drowsy driving. Did you know that drowsy driving is actually responsible for more accidents than drunk or drug driving?
Really? I had no idea. That's a terrifying statistic.
It is. And the author advocates for much stronger public awareness campaigns
Wow.
around the dangers of drowsy driving,
Yeah.
similar to what we've seen with drunk driving,
Mhm.
and also tougher laws and penalties.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do you enforce something like that?
Right.
It's not like you can test someone's blood for sleep deprivation.
Well, that might be changing. The author mentions some emerging technologies that can actually detect signs of driver fatigue and even intervene
Really?
to prevent accidents. Think like in-car systems that monitor eye movements,
Wow.
steering patterns, things like that.
That would be incredible. It's amazing to think about how technology could play a role in keeping us safe on the road.
Mm.
Okay, so public awareness campaigns, tougher laws, and new technologies to combat drowsy driving. What other big picture ideas does the author propose?
One more I want to mention is the idea of using health insurance incentives to encourage better sleep.
Oh, interesting. How would that work?
Well, think about how some health insurance companies already offer discounts or credits for gym memberships
Yeah.
or other wellness programs.
Right.
The author suggests a similar system for sleep. So imagine if your health insurance offered you lower rates.
Okay.
If you had consistently good sleep scores, tracked through an approved device or something.
I could see how that would be a powerful motivator for some people. But I also worry about the privacy implications, having your sleep data linked to your insurance rates.
Yeah, that's definitely a valid concern. And the author acknowledges that too.
Okay, good.
There need to be really clear guidelines and regulations to protect individual privacy.
Absolutely. It's a complex issue for sure.
If it is.
It sounds like the author has given us a lot to think about, both on a personal level and in terms of these larger systemic changes.
They really have. This chapter lays out such a bold vision for how we can transform our relationship with sleep, not just as individuals, but as a society.
And what's so exciting is that while some of these ideas may seem radical, they're all ultimately achievable
Right.
if we prioritize sleep and commit to making it a cornerstone of our well-being.
Absolutely.
Okay, before we get too carried away with dreaming of a well-rested future, let's take a quick pause to gather our thoughts.
Yeah.
When we come back, I want to explore the author's closing message and see what personal takeaways we can glean from this deep dive. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by all this
Right.
when you start thinking about, like sleep deprivation is this global problem.
Yeah.
But honestly, after this deep dive,
Hmm.
I'm feeling pretty hopeful.
Me too. I think it's easy to get caught up in all those like doom and gloom statistics,
Mhm.
but the author really does present a very optimistic outlook, like change is possible.
What I find so compelling is they don't just, like throw out these big ideas and leave us hanging.
Right.
They actually break things down into like concrete steps,
Mm,
which makes it feel a lot less daunting.
it does, and they really emphasize that it's okay to start small.
Yeah.
You don't have to overhaul your whole life overnight.
It's like that saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, or in
Exactly.
this case, a single good night's sleep.
Right.
Did the author have any, like parting words of wisdom for us?
Yeah, in the closing section, they pose this question
Okay.
that I think is really worth thinking about.
Right. Hit me with it. What's the question?
They ask, what one small change could you make today to prioritize your sleep? And what impact might that have on your life a year from now?
Wow, that's a good one. It really makes you think about the long game.
Mm-hmm.
So what about you? What one small change comes to mind for you?
Well, I've been thinking a lot about setting some firmer boundaries around technology in the evening.
Yeah.
I'm definitely guilty of scrolling through my phone in bed, and
Yeah, me too.
I know that blue light is not doing me any
Look.
favors. So I think my commitment is to like put the phone away at least an hour before bed
Yeah.
and maybe pick up a book instead.
I might have to steal that one from you. I think for me, it's about consistency.
Okay.
Like, I'm pretty good about getting enough sleep during the week,
Mm-hmm.
but then the weekends hit and I totally throw my schedule off.
Yeah.
So my challenge to myself is to maintain a consistent sleep routine, even on the weekends.
That's great. I think that's a fantastic goal. Consistency is so key.
It is.
Who knows, maybe by this time next year, we'll both be reaping those benefits of better sleep.
More energy, better focus, maybe even fewer wrinkles.
Fingers crossed.
I know, right? But even if we don't achieve perfect sleep, I think this deep dive has been a good reminder that
Yeah.
sleep is not a luxury. It's essential. It's essential for our health, our well-being, our success in life.
I completely agree. It's time to reclaim our sleep and unlock our full potential.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of sleep. We hope you learned something new and feel empowered to make some positive changes in your own life. Sweet dreams, everyone.